All right, Nuggets fans, welcome into Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at BetOnline. I am your host, Ryan Blackburn, at NBA Blackburn on NBA Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I am here. I am ready to discuss the Denver Nuggets loss last night as they didn't get rolled, but like I put in the title here, Celtics roll. That's a little bit egregious, but they ultimately won by double digits. The Celtics did. Final score of that 118 to 106. It's really hard to win a game without Nikola Jokic, who was a late scratch yesterday. Somebody that obviously the Celtics spent a lot of time to game plan for, spent a lot of time to try to figure out, hey, how are we going to deal with this guy? And then they didn't have to deal with him, and things got a little bit weird for a while. Denver fought very hard, and I thought that they did a pretty good job for the most part of keeping pace with the Celtics. That second quarter was a lot of fun, but ultimately it was not meant to be. It's a tough one to try to evaluate. Like, what do you really value? What do you try to put the onus on? Can you really have any major takeaways when Nikola Jokic is not out there? And we can try. We can have some stuff. So we'll get into it in just a bit. But really quick, this podcast, as you know, it's brought to you by the good folks over at BetOnline. They continue to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is the ultimate game day companion with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC, and more. BetOnline is the number one sports betting source for the new year. From touchdowns to three-pointers to hat tricks, BetOnline has you covered in every which way. BetOnline, the game starts here. All right. Let's get into it. We're going to do a little bit of a shorter pod today. It's going to be about 30 minutes, or at least that's what I'm going to shoot for. Couple segments. The first segment will mostly be, hey, Denver didn't have Nikola Jokic. Obviously, that was a problem. But I thought the team fought pretty well and did some good things when they were... when especially in the first half, they got down in the first quarter by double digits, fought back in the second quarter, and ultimately this game was tied with about 8 minutes left to go. And Denver had put in a lot of great work. They did some good things to stick around. I thought that the defense from Peyton Watson especially really stood out. Russell Westbrook made some hustle plays. Michael Porter made some hustle plays. Jamal Murray hit some clutch middies in the second quarter to get Denver back into it, especially. And there was just a lot to like. Julian Strawther had a good game, and you never see him having 15 plus points in a game. So it's really nice to see Denver's young scorer kind of find some ways to get it going. Let me just check and see if 19 points was a season high for Julian. It was tied for a season high. So again, there were some good things to take away from this one. There are absolutely some good things from this game. Unfortunately, when you are facing a team like the Celtics, you have to be close to perfect. And especially when you don't have Joker. And Denver not just didn't have Joker, they didn't have Aaron Gordon, who would have been big in this particular game because the detail stuff, the strength that he provides for Denver's starting group, and then for any kind of rotational groups where he might play the backup five, he would have some additional strength to be able to throw out there because Denver had Dario Saric, Zeke Naji, and DeAndre Jordan effectively split the center duties, and Peyton Watson ultimately played about 6 minutes at backup center. But those other three centers, Dario, DeAndre, Zeke, it was horrible. It was so bad. And look, DeAndre, at least he'll get some rebounding up there. He affected some shots. There were some good things that he did. Didn't really have a great game, I'll say, but he was a +1 in his time. Dario was a -7. Zeke Naji in his 5 minutes was a -8. And when you put it all together, it's just a hole that the Nuggets continue to have in their rotation. I will talk about that a little bit more in the second segment, but it's that was clearly the weakness for Denver last night it wasn't on the perimeter. I thought it would be on the perimeter a little bit more, but no, like Russell Westbrook, Jamal Murray, Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, Julian Strawther, and then Michael Porter, they all provided some good things on the perimeter in this game, matching up with the Celtics, who they didn't have Derek White, yes, but I thought that Denver outplayed like the likes of Peyton Pritchard. I thought that Drew had a really great second half, but he wasn't awesome in the first half. Jaylen Brown was pretty slow. Jason Tatum, 29 points on 23 shots, but he shot 1 of 9 from 3. And Denver matched up reasonably well with these guys. So it wasn't perfect, but I mean, you look at the plus minuses at the end and they tell a different story. Jason Tatum was plus 23, Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis plus 15 and plus 14 respectively. It was really the bench minutes for Boston that Denver was able to take advantage. But I mean, a lot of teams take advantage of Denver when they go to the bench minutes. So I don't necessarily want to sit here and say one way or the other. Would Jokic and Aaron Gordon have helped? Absolutely. So like this game would be a different beast. It would be a different animal if we were talking about a full strength Nuggets versus a full strength Celtics. But we have to talk about what we saw. We have to talk about what happened. And I think it's important to like give credit, but also give, I think, some of the criticisms. Russell Westbrook led the team with 26 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. I thought that the shooting, especially for him, he got the game started with a couple threes, and I think everybody was like, okay, is this going to be a Russell Westbrook game where he really carries a little bit? And it was. Unfortunately, he also had 8 turnovers, and 8 turnovers is just too many when you're trying to face a Celtics team that doesn't really turn you over that much. Like, they are not a great turnover forcing team. They like to play without their hands. They like to show hands. They don't like to get a whole bunch of steals and get a whole bunch of deflections. They are just trying to force you to miss the ball or to miss the shot. And Russ gave it away 8 times, and that's a lot to overcome. Michael Porter had a really good first half. I thought that he had about 10.7 rebounds in the first half. It looked like he was on his way to a pretty big game. Denver didn't get him enough shots, but when he got more shots in the second half, the Celtics were ready. And Jason Tatum did a really good job of guarding him. And anybody that switched out onto him was like, they were very clearly trying to run him off the 3-point line as much as possible. And Porter wasn't able to get any clean looks. And ultimately, the 2 threes that he hit in the first quarter were the only 2 threes that he hit on the game. 2 of 7 from 3. This is a tough matchup for him. It has always been a tough matchup for him. And it will be something that he has to continue to work through. This is the pressure point and being the focal point. Jokic takes away a lot of the attention. But if Michael Porter wants to be a key factor for Denver as like either a second or third option for this team in a championship run, these are the defenses that he's going to have to face, that he's going to have to match up with. And we've seen Jamal kind of like, obviously he oscillates. He goes back and forth between really good play and really bad play. But usually in these big moments, he does show up. And I thought he did pretty reasonably in this game. But Michael Porter, we saw last year against the Minnesota Timberwolves. We saw against the Miami Heat in the NBA Finals. We've seen against some other teams that just play very physically, play very strong defense on the perimeter, that he can really struggle to get his shot off in some of these moments. So hopefully this is an aberration. This is a learning experience. And with Joker around, he would look a little bit different. I think ultimately that Jamal Murray was fine in this game. He wasn't great. He wasn't terrible. He was fine. And that's, I think, part of the problem sometimes for Nuggets fans where they want him to, especially when Joker's out, you want him to take over. You want to see him be dynamic. You want to see him show out, do everything that he needs to do to be one of the best players on the floor. He wasn't one of the best players on the floor. And he has to work so hard in these moments where he's getting to his spots, setting himself up in the mid-range. He kind of forgoes some of the, like, there were a couple times where he had an opportunity to just jack up a quick 3 And maybe that would have been the best shot in the possession. But he hasn't had the three going for a little bit here. And instead, he has kind of navigated to the mid range. And he shot 7 of 12 from two tonight, or last night, which was pretty good. Honestly, like the way that the Celtics guard, he was able to get to spots and able to hit some pretty tough shots. But the problem is that he just continues to take tough shots, and he has to shoot such a high percentage on plays like that to even make it worthwhile. Like 19 points on 17 shots is fine. It's not great. It's not terrible, but it's just fine. And Denver needs him to continue to be like, if they want him to be the player that he thinks he can be, he's got to be getting closer to, like, if he takes 17 shots, it has to be 25. It has to be 27. It has to be 30. Like these kinds of totals. And that's with getting the 3-pointers up, getting the free throws up. He's low volume in each of those categories in comparison to other high volume scorers. And that's just something that he's going to have to navigate. Now, talking to some people in the organization, he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders right now. And look, I did the podcast on Monday night, just about like being honest on his season. And I think he knows that he has not been good enough. And there's this dynamic within the Nuggets fan base that everybody says that, oh, he's fine with that. Like he's fine being average, or he's fine being just good enough. I don't know if that's true. I don't think that's true, because the frustration that I keep getting from him, and that the organization keeps getting from him about how he is playing, is palpable. Everybody sees it. Everybody, like, behind the scenes is, they know how much Murray cares about, and like that he is not showing up or not playing to the level that he is expected to play. And especially with the contract, and everybody brings up the contract. Everybody talks about the contract, and it's true. Like that is going to always be a factor. So look, I know that he's struggling with it. I know that he's doing his thing. He's trying to figure out navigate the ups and downs of this moment for him, and trying to get back to a place where he can make the plays that he's expected to make. I don't really even know if I have a point to that, but I just know, just from talking to different people, that he's been having it pretty rough. And Nuggets fans, I know, have been extremely hard on him. And I wonder if the best call is to just try to be uplifting at this point, and trying to do their best to continue to put him into a good state of mind where it's more of a positive thing. I don't think Nuggets fans are going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think Nuggets fans have kind of run out of the benefit of the doubt with him. But I do think that it might help. It honestly might. So, look, nobody's going to want to hear that from me, but I think it might be true. Yeah, like Denver was tied in the early to middle fourth quarter, about 8 minutes left to go. This game was still tied, and it was impressive. Julian Strawther was very good, as I mentioned, but Peyton Watson, like, take a bow on the defensive end. You were fantastic. The hustle was there. The Celtics were able to kind of navigate that a little bit more in the second half, but I can't help but imagine that you mix in some better defenders around Peyton Watson, and then the Celtics are wondering, holy hell, where do we even attack at this point? They were attacking Jamal, and that was successful for them very clearly. I think there was a soundbite on TNT where Joe Mazzulla was like, go at Murray to Jaylen Brown. And that was obviously very successful. And, but like Christian Brown was getting bullied a little bit. Michael Porter was pretty good. Anytime they attacked the center, it was tough. Julian Strawther, I thought, held up reasonably well. And then Peyton Watson was really good in those moments. So imagine getting back Aaron Gordon if they had KCP. Like, this matchup, I think, would be going Denver's way really quickly. So Denver's not too far away from that, or they're not as far away as I thought that they were. The complexion of the game ultimately changes when you have Joker out there. It might be worse for Denver because Boston, they only got up 35 threes in this one, where Denver played a lot smaller, where they switched a whole bunch more, and they did a bunch of things to get the Celtics off the line. But that came at a cost where the Celtics were able to dominate inside. They got to the free throw line 20 times. They grabbed only 11 offensive rebounds, but it felt like a lot more in the moments. And it felt like they were getting, like every time they got an offensive rebound, it turned into buckets. But really, it was for the Celtics. Their offense separated in the fourth quarter. Denver was not able to keep up the pace. They were not able to hit the shots when it ultimately mattered. Boston went on like a 12-0, 15-0 run in that fourth quarter, and that was that. That was curtains at that point, and Denver was just not able to make up the difference. So tough spot for the Nuggets to be, where they were very close. They had fought hard. People see that. People understand that. They appreciate that. But ultimately, it was not meant to be because the Celtics are just more talented and a better cohesive team than the Nuggets are, especially without Jokic and Gordon. So, look, it's a tough place, but I think that Denver, they showed some positives. When we come back, we're going to talk about what's missing. We're going to talk about where Denver can get better, what they're looking for, and what it's ultimately going to look like. And then we'll also talk about Nuggets versus Clippers tonight and everything in between. We'll be right back on Pickaxe and Roll. Back at it, Pickaxe and Roll. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Appreciate the love and support on the podcast, folks. Hit that like button if you can. Hit that subscribe button if you enjoy the podcast. Would really, really appreciate it. So what's missing? What's missing for the Nuggets? What did they show last night? Because heading into it, and people heard me talk about this, and people probably read me talking about this, I was talking about a measuring stick game for Denver. This was a measuring stick to see if, how close are they? How close are they to being a championship contender? Because the Celtics obviously won the championship last year. Denver was the 2023 champs. Boston's clearly looking like they can repeat in 2025. So I'm very curious to see how they ultimately view this game, the Nuggets. Is this one where they think of themselves as, hey, we're close because, look, we only lost by 12 without Jokic? Or is this where they're like, you know what? We think that we're kind of far away and we need to change something pretty significant. And I think you could go a variety of different ways on it. You could say, all right, Murray and Porter, not good enough in a game against the Celtics where they're facing a whole bunch of ball pressure. They combined for 34 points. They did not play well in the second half overall. It felt very much like Denver. They had to rely especially much on Russell Westbrook. Christian Brown got a bunch of shots in the second half. Peyton Watson, Julian Strawther especially, like he was one player to kind of get a whole bunch of shots in the second half. One of the only guys to really be able to create his own shot outside of Murray and outside of Russ. So Denver had to navigate that. They still have to navigate that. They have to figure out, all right, do we need better creators? Do we need better guys within the core? Or if you have to just add Jokic and Aaron Gordon back into this mix, could you beat a team like the Celtics with just your core guys? And if you can beat a team like the Celtics, then you probably could beat a team like the Thunder, or you probably could beat a team like the Mavericks, probably could beat a team like the Cavs. And you start going down the list and thinking, all right, well, if you could beat the Celtics, you could probably beat everybody. You could probably win a title. And that, I think, is the dichotomy that the Nuggets are going to struggle with on this. They're going to have to be honest with themselves. They have to be realistic. The complexion of the game changes with Jokic and Gordon out there, but it also means that the Celtics probably jack up 55 threes as opposed to the 35 that they put up in this game? I don't know the answer. I tend to think that they are missing too much. Um, but if you still believe in the core and you still believe in, okay, so you've got the core, you've got Christian Brown probably starting, but it could technically be Russell Westbrook starting too. All right, so you've got two ball handlers and Murray and Russell Westbrook. You've got two wings in Christian Brown and Julian Strawther. You've got three forwards in Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter, Peyton Watson. And you've got one big in Jokic that you really trust. You probably need another big man if you want to make a run. I think that was going to be a problem at all times when Deron Holmes was out. But the fact that Zeke Naji, of course, hasn't stepped up, the fact that DeAndre Jordan is so clearly the best backup center that the Nuggets have when they brought in Dario Saric to really play a role, I thought that Dario would be so much better than he has been. And he just it was jarring. Like he hadn't played in a while, and there was a reason he hadn't played in a while. Dario's in a big, tough place for Denver. I can't believe that, in retrospect, that I actually caped for the Dario signing. I thought that it would be so much better than what it was. And he just, one, can't make shots, but two, he just cannot finish around the rim at all. And it was very clear when surrounded by a whole bunch of Celtics, he was just in hell. So if Denver is going to make a move, I think they have to look at backup 5 or a backup 4-5, somebody that maybe isn't like a traditional center, but definitely somebody that's more athletic than Dario, somebody that's more athletic than probably Zeke, and can maybe play next to Joker at times instead of just behind Joker. Now, I don't have a list of names for you. That's not what I have. We've still got a month to go before the regular season or before the NBA trade deadline. So that's something that I'll be monitoring. Is that what they need? Can they get that? And the other factor is, can they invest more resources into that? Can they do that every single flipping year when they have how many resources have they spent on the backup 4/5 over the course of these years and gotten absolutely nowhere with it? Do they just wait for Deron Holmes next year and then kind of fold on this season? Do they really believe that a backup center is what's going to put them into the title race? Probably not. And so that kind of leads me to some other things. Do they need another wing? Do they need another forward? Do they need another guard? I think you can make an argument for all of those things. You can make an argument that they need the Jalen Pickett role. Everybody, for whatever reason, everybody's been clamoring for Jalen Pickett to play. It's pretty funny. As recently as November 1st, everybody wanted Jalen Pickett in Siberia. And now, because he's had a couple games, everybody's like, hey, give him an opportunity. I don't think that Jalen Pickett's going to change their fortunes in the playoffs. I don't think that Hunter Tyson is going to change their fortunes in the playoffs. The same thing about Dario Saric and probably Zeke Naji, of course. So, and then is Vlatko going to come back? Is he going to be healthy? I don't know. I think the Nuggets have to be honest with themselves about that position as well. So if they're able to be honest with themselves, if they're able to figure out, all right, who is going to help? I think you can look at last night's game and be like, Peyton Watson's going to help you. Julian Strawther's going to help you. They're going to hurt you at times. And especially Julian, he is still so raw. And he still has a game where you're not really sure what he's going to do from night to night. But he has the scoring explosiveness that I think you need in order to survive in a playoff series. It doesn't have to be every night, but it could be in a specific game in a specific moment. And having that will give Denver some positives. So is it a guard that they're looking for? Is it another forward that they're looking for? Do they just wait for Deron Holmes next year and not deal with this? Maybe this is a buyout market kind of situation where Denver doesn't go for a big swing or anything like that, but they just wait for a veteran to come available. Maybe they go back to the well with Justin Holiday. I mean, he would have been helpful last night. He wouldn't necessarily have outmuscled Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and maybe that's where Denver could really benefit, just getting somebody else that is strong. But we've also seen Denver really struggle with some quick guards. So maybe they need some more quickness and defensive acumen on the perimeter, and Justin Holiday probably helps with that. So I don't know. We're going to find out. We're going to see what Denver decides to do, but I think last night confirmed to me. Actually, no, it didn't confirm anything. I was going to say that it confirmed that Denver's core could win a championship, but we saw 2 out of the 4 core pieces. So I need to see it more. I need to see Aaron Gordon come back. I need to see Nikola Jokic back and obviously we've seen a whole heck of a lot of him. But I just think in general that if we see those 4 playing together and playing the way that we think that they can, Russell Westbrook's played well enough. Julian Strawther's played well enough. Christian Brown's played well enough. Peyton Watson's played well enough that you could at least see them finding different opportunities. And whether they are going to win a title or not, they probably won't, but a lot of teams aren't going to win the title. So you give yourself an opportunity every single year. So we will see. All right, let's move on. Nuggets versus Clippers tonight. This is actually a very important game. Very important in the standings. I'm looking at it now. Denver is 20-15, and just fortunately, the Lakers also lost last night, so Denver stays ahead of them. But the Clippers are 20-16. So Denver, you hope that Joker's back and healthy and ready to go tonight. And if he is back, then you need to win this game. This is a must win for the Nuggets. And I know that sounds crazy, but if the Clippers kind of keep up the pace that they are currently on, they'll win about 45 to 48 games, just like the Nuggets. And if the Nuggets are in that general tier, then jockeying for position might come down to game 81, game 82 of the season, just like last year. And Denver's probably not going to be in the realm where they're competing for a top 2 seed. Now they might. They might still leapfrog Houston. They might still leapfrog Memphis. I don't think that they will. I think that Denver is more likely to be in that 4, 5, 6, 7 range. But to avoid the 4, 5, to avoid the 7 range, this is a great opportunity. You tie the Clippers in the tiebreaker. If you are able to win this one tonight, Denver's fortunate. They'll have 3 home games, I believe, against the Clippers because they were given an extra one due to the NBA Cup. If Denver can survive in that one, if they can win and get the tiebreaker, or not the tiebreaker, but at least split the tiebreaker with the Clippers, that's going to be such a big deal. And I tend to think that could matter later in the season. Also another conference game, also a game against an opponent that's in your general tier. Minnesota's they're still struggling, but Anthony Edwards is playing pretty well. I don't expect Golden State to really pop up there, but the Lakers are 20-16. The Mavericks are 21-16, and they're doing that without Luka and Kyrie right now. Denver's got to win both of those games next week, or at least one of them in Dallas. There's a lot of games that Denver has to match up with for this for these tiebreakers and for the playoffs. So this will be one to really monitor. Can the Nuggets guard? Can Christian Brown, Russell Westbrook, can those guys bother James Harden and Norman Powell? That is the big question. Obviously, those guys have given Denver issues. The thing about the last matchup that these two teams played against each other, let me just go back to that box score really quick. Denver blew them out 120-98. Murray was solid in that one. He had 4 steals and a block. Jokic didn't have to shoot a lot in that one. It was actually one of his worst games, 16, 7, and 2. but you had other guys just really contributing off the bench. Peyton Watson had 14, Julian Strawther had 12, Russell Westbrook had 5 and 5 with 3 steals and was a plus 21 in that game. That was where he really started to emerge. And that, I think it was December 13th. That was where Russ really started to emerge as an option consistently for Denver. But Aaron Gordon was healthy for that one. He gave them an opportunity. Michael Porter was pretty solid. Denver had options that they could go to. And like I was talking about with Harden and Powell, they each went 6 of 14 in that game. They each had 15 and 16 points. That is vastly different from the sums that they were amassing in the first 2 matchups. So if they combine for 30 points, Denver's going to win the game again. If they combine for 60 points, Denver's in for a dogfight. We'll see what they ultimately look like, and I'm not sure exactly how healthy the Clippers are right now. But this one really matters for Denver. They are 7-0 on the second night of back-to-backs. They will provide a pretty good burst of energy, a pretty good opportunity, but it's not going to matter unless Joker's there. I honestly don't think that Denver can win on the second night of a back-to-back without Jokic. Now, I do think that Porter will be good. He's always good on the second night of back-to-backs. And we'll see about Murray. We'll see where he's at. I do think other guys will be pretty solid, but it really is going to come down to Joker, I think. If they have him, if he can provide a little bit of energy, we'll see. Again, when you're coming off of sickness and Joker doesn't miss a game for much of any reason. So clearly he was sick enough that they decided, no, we're going to save you. But we'll find out. We're going to see what it looks like. True Teller asks, do you think Jokic plays? Yeah, I do. I think he does play. But it's also going to be like that. We'll see. Like, he had a couple days off prior to the Celtics game. So that's how you know that he couldn't really kick it. We'll see if he could kick it for this game tonight. But it would be a big deal if he could play because this game does genuinely matter. So we will see if Denver can do it. Peyton Watson should get a larger role once again, trying to match up with James Harden and Norman Powell. But even beyond that, like, I think that Peyton Watson needs to continue to play for Denver. He's still so valuable for what they need. He continues to show some star capability. He's not going to be a star in the NBA, I don't think, but he has the ability to be like a serious, like, making money kind of guy. And part of that is the unique skill set that he has. He was hustling everywhere. If he can continue to hit shots, if he can continue to make plays, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for him going forward. All right. I think that's going to do it, everybody. That's going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at BetOnline. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Appreciate the support. As always, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. I will be back tomorrow morning. We'll try to get another show out, and we'll see where things get after that. Thank you so much, everybody. Hit that like button. We'll talk to you guys very soon.